free money.
When are we all going to dinner at this place?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, it's fabulous. But anyway, so how do I feel about the economy? There are a lot of things that need to be squeezed out of this economy, and we're not going to do it unless we take some castor oil. It's that simple. And I worry about the implications socially. In other words, people out of work and stuff. I'm hoping we can do it in a reasoned way, but I think we need to get the work and take some of the excess out of the system.
I don't want to let you go without talking about what you're doing at NYU Lingo.
like Dr. Borla on.
Good morning, everyone.
Performance
Hello.
positions are very poor. For instance, I have here Nurtec, okay? This is something when I have a migraine, I think I'm going to get one. It doesn't
How
lose
is
my mind.
everyone
3 minutes
doing
and 15
today?
minutes, I have no migraine. I was at American.
We're all aware.
Well, I
Yes.
know that.
Yes, of
Okay, but
course,
listen to
yes.
this. That's not the point of the story.
Okay, what is?
Okay, the last full year before Dr. Borla spent 11.
What's up, Queen? What's up? What's up? Good morning. Good morning.
It did nearly 500
So
million
this
in sales,
morning,
which is high. In the
markets
first
is still
year,
running.
it's
So we have FMOC today. So as we can see, I mean, this market's just been on a massive tear. I do think that for FMOC, we're going to end up dropping, possibly retesting this wick right here. ES, I'm starting a bit red on ES today. I took a short at the close yesterday, and then the thing just kept on pushing. I'm glad I cut out. So small loss on ES to start the day, but can be recouped once we have FMOC. So I'm not really seeing anything major so far. I have taken a look at Tesla. Tesla gap down a bit, down to 233. So I'm gonna be watching to see if yes, thank you. I'm feeling much better. So I'm gonna be watching for Tesla for a potential run up to 239. Nvidia could push higher, but given that I'm expecting Nasdaq to drop, I think we're gonna end up having a pretty decent pullback. So I'm just gonna be waiting and watching, seeing if can get an indication of a trade. I'm not really sure what happened to cause Meta, Tesla, and even AMD, like this massive drop at the end of the day, and then pop. Can't really determine what that was. AMD, same thing. AMD did something similar. So I actually will be watching AMD for a possible pullback, maybe even closer to 134 for a possible long. But I'm going to be trading these via option and shares as well. And I set it up, so I set it up on another monitor to where I have Tesla, AMD, Nvidia, Apple, and Meta. So these are going to be the stocks that I'm going to be focusing on doing share trades and option trades on. Oh, yo.
I thought on Squawk Box Langone was particularly articulate on both succession, the importance of succession, picking the right person, how critical that is. And really, I've always said it's the #1 job of a board of directors. And then he's been in Lilly forever. And by the way, the stock did
Give me
not
just a
do well
minute.
for a period of time.
All right, everyone. So far, getting a nice little pullback on ES. Tesla is moving lower. AMD as well. AMD is still slightly above yesterday's close pre-market. Nvidia's below yesterday's market close. So is Meta. The only one that's really up is Apple. All right. Got a few minutes left till the open. If y'all have any questions between now and the opening bell, feel free to ask. Let me make sure I got my mic. Yep, mic's on.
NBC. Take a look at the free market. Even with everything that's been handed us this week, CPI, PPI, the Fed, S&P still on track for 7 weeks of gains. That would be the longest weekly win streak in about 6 years. Opening bell coming up in just over 5 minutes.
So I really like to see a close on ES below 47.01. But then I'm tempted to take this here. You know what? Let's do it. I'm sure at 47.03 even. Let me turn this because y'all didn't hear it. Drop, yes, drop. Oh, nice drop on Apple. You know she's short, bro. You know she's short. She's probably short from the top on NQ. What was the top on NQ? 16,635. Yo, you know she's been short since then. Watch. Confirm. You know it. You know it. I prefer short. Yeah. Nice follow through. Keep it going. Keep it going. 2 minutes to go. Yo, Apple's pulling back hard body. Oh.
Dash, you hear those?
Yeah. Some
Sounds like
sort of
somebody's
weird
hitting
thing.
something and then whoosh.
Yeah. We're a little
All right.
white now.
Anyway, that's the new
Let's
introduction.
go. Oh, she pulling even more.
Good
To
stuff.
the man, Dash. I like you walking by the bowl.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, I think it's good. I can't find the bear. I was going to walk around the bear, but it's been 7 straight up weeks in the S&P. So
Nice.
the bear
There
must
we
be
go.
today. I
I'm
know.
gonna do J&J.
You know why I want to do this?
Why?
Because I think we're really hard on Pfizer.
Okay.
Hard on Dr. Borland.
Let's
We
go.
forget the drug
Wow.
companies.
Wow.
They
Okay.
struggle. And J&J has a drug
We
Stelara,
like
which is their
this.
big drug, and that's got a loss of exclusivity coming in. Wells Fargo today downgraded J&J, saying they really don't have enough to replace Stelara, and they think their medtech growth targets appear optimistic. They only at the very end in a downside scenario.
Oh,
did
we
they
down
mention
to the
the,
lows.
the possibility of setback
All
in
right. All right.
This is
Locking
just
in
kind of
3 points on
tough business.
ES
If
shorts.
you're J&J, and I think you're sitting
Let's
there, you're thinking,
go.
wow, I mean, we've got a lot of money, we're doing everything right, but we do have drugs that come off patent. And that's just the clock ticking. So,
There we go.
the J&J's not investing. But
No, they're not. I mean, I know, but I don't know.
Oh,
There's some people-
NVIDIA.
I'm looking at the longer term. Let's go 10 years on J&J. It's not bad. It's nothing compared to Pfizer.
it peaked when they lost some count decisions.
You know, AbbVie's got something coming off patent, but they've
Okay,
been incredibly
okay.
busy. And by the way, that stock, to be fair, has done very, very well.
Well, it's got a big dividend. Everyone thought the dividend had to be cut. No, they made some acquisitions.
Yeah.
By the way, they have a rival migraine drug.
Remember, they made back-to-back weekly acquisitions.
Okay, Nvidia's
Both were the same
pushing.
Size. One was 10, one was 8.
But I just think that let's understand that Dr. Borland is the only one that has a problem with a drug coming off patent. The industry itself has
Apple catching a bid.
if you're a person, you're not sitting there and saying, in 17 years, they're not going to give away these Dr. Balls. So let's understand the industry itself. Not such an easy industry.
Ooh.
Positions, and then has that ECD auto design celebrating a listing.
Let's see. NQ's moving back up again. Don't like this.
Well, we haven't heard from some of the more bearish strategists. They like to have a down week to talk and they haven't had a chance. But this is an extraordinary time, I think, because historically, right when you think that the Fed's going to pivot from raise to no raise, it's
Wow.
been a great time. Just a great time. You're anticipating. No one's saying that the economy is weak,
Meta's
and that's why they're
pushing,
cutting.
Apple's
So it's just
pushing,
kind of,
Nvidia's
historically been a
pushing,
halcyon moment,
AMD
and it's playing out as a
dropping.
halcyon moment. And I think there are a lot of people
Okay,
who
there
are
goes
because they
Tesla.
just figured
Oh,
we're going to be in a recession or stocks are too high, and it's just not playing out
Shit.
that way. It's not just Magnificent Seven. It's pouring out. There was a very good upgrade in the rails today. We're seeing a lot of belief that the pure industrials are going to do well. I just think the banks are coming back. So there's a lot of things that are working, and I don't want to tell people, well, that's all going to reverse itself, because that seems fancy.
Just about every sector is overbought on a short-term basis, except for energy, which is oversold.
Oh, my energy is just a disaster because especially at natural gas. Almost no one can make money at natural gas at 2 and change. We are exporting so
Let's see. Oh,
much
wow.
oil. A lot of people felt that nobody could touch the Saudis in terms of being at the fulcrum, David, of the price. Now it's us. And if we, look, we have
Seeing divergence where
the rig count. We're just
the
getting
Dow
so
was
much for each
down.
one. Well, we've touched the price.
Wow.
Right.
Yep.
Touched it.
This is all good for the consumer as we head into the home heating season. It's good for that too.
Well, remember,
Natural
the
gas being
home
where it
heating is better than gasoline when it comes to what for consumer savings.
Yeah.
And we have more natural gas than anyone in the world, and we don't know what to do with it. We can't ship it up north because of
Pipeline
people fighting
problems.
pipelines.
Well, we do know what to do with it. We have huge export terminals. If they figure out what to do
We
with
do
it.
like 5-6 big.
By the way, you have other parts of the world that no longer get Russian gas, as you know, so
Right.
we've had to figure that out.
David, there's something that has to happen though. It
What?
has to get cold. It wasn't cold.
Okay,
It's got to
Tesla.
get cold.
It's thankfully
burn
so,
through.
because last winter there was a potential crisis looming
Right,
if
not
it did
this year.
get particularly.
We'll ship them all they want.
What have they done to replace all that Russian gas in places like Germany?
They have ours. They have floating ships that have all the natural gas they need. Look, I mean, something happened with natural gas in our country. It just turned out to be.
Let's
We had a
see,
lot
let's
more. I remember going
see.
with late Aubrey McClendon to Ohio. Aubrey was a great gunslinger.
Damn, Tesla's
Chesapeake.
pushing forward.
We went to Ohio, and he said, "You are going to see oil."
It's that
from-
one.
it'll
All
be like
good.
Spindletop." And I got there, and it turned out to be natural gas. We couldn't see anything. The Utica Shale. But we had to put it somewhere. Put it in pipes, send it overseas.
Meantime, $2 away from what would be a 52-week low on crude. Gasoline, thanks to Gas Buddy, some states are going to see $1.99 gas. Ohio, Wisconsin might see sub $2 gas.
We got a red to green on the Dow.
Just kind of felt, wow, something's really on. So here's something that's down big, and you felt like, well, geez, that's good for the consumer.
Our pops up to
Look at that, will you? I mean, and yet there's Occidental doing a
Jeez
deal all the time,
Louise.
doing some deal. All of them are doing deals.
Jim, I want to, we've talked a lot about pharma this morning, whether it be Pfizer or the success of Lilly, J&J. Let's talk verdicts, because it's a company you've focused on.
I am shocked how great that
You've
thing
talked
could be.
about their study of what they're calling a peripheral neuropathy treatment phase 2 trial here. It's a non-opioid drug that treats pain. And the company is saying that in phase 2 of what they're calling VX548 to treat patients with diabetic peripheral neuropathy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I just took along on AMD.
Clinically meaningful reduction in the primary endpoint of change from baseline.
139
Yes,
strike.
I think that the idea that it's up 29,
Expiration
this is
December
right outside usually.
22.
They could just say that's just what would universal pain.
Oh my goodness,
I mean, this could be
NVIDIA.
one of the biggest drugs of all time. We could make it so that you don't get 3 tablets or 30 tablets of OxyContin after you've had an operation.
Right.
You get addicted after 6. So this is really fabulous news.
Yep. I am seeing some research. Efficacy actually looks as good as Lyrica, although it's a tough trial design. No stat comparison between the arms as expected. A lack of dose response. Leave a lot of room for interpretation. This is just one research report here this morning. More than 50% though of responders showed pain reduction. Very clinically useful metric. Looks quite good. So
Wow,
there'll be plenty of
Meta's
time to
still
assess the
going.
data. Obviously, as it continues to move on in terms of the trial.
That's a very interesting comparison that we should mention. I take Lyrica for nerve pain, and that was a fabulous Pfizer drug that went off patent. It was like, boom, that was a huge cliff. The drug's somewhat effective. Unfortunately, it's a tremendous weight gain. And this doesn't seem like it has that side effect.
Jim, a lot of discussion about OPEX this Friday. Biggest ever, $5 trillion. The rebalance and the expiration. Is that what's going to sort of get us off of what some argue is a stuck position in equities?
I mean, just
Damn.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
Wow.
a lot depends on the next 12 hours.
yes, it does. But let's see. Give me the power of this. All right. So yesterday, Lindy was rumored, the great industrial gas company we own for our travel trucks. It was rumored to be added to the NASDAQ 100.
Well, I'm just asking because Take Two's, yeah.
And
Ooh,
there was a
and
switch
two
around
still
even for that.
going.
Take Two got in. You know, GTA David, GTA 6, no. This is more important. And take a look at Lynn, L-I-N. Holy cow. On the rumor that it was going to get it, now it's down 15. So my thinking is, if you got something indexed, I mean, Lynn's crush, Take Two is a surprise. Wow. There's a lot of money just waiting to be put to work here. I think it could be.
You think it could
I think indexes are moving. You know, you index something, you put more money in the
Yeah, no,
index.
this is a market that's, I mean, it's all, it's ETF and
Why
index.
isn't it?
is
Why
And
is
by the CTAs,
AMD
by the
lagging, bruh?
traded firms. We talked about that.
I know.
We,
It's,
I mean, we're
you
like,
think it's
we're
depressing?
marginal players here.
You think it's
People who care
depressing?
about the fundamentals.
well, you know, I saw Sam
Marginal
Altman. I
players.
saw Sam Altman last night at the Time First of the Year.
Yes.
Oh man, are we marginal players?
We mean compared to the machines.
Well, because he's talking about the super brain.
Right.
Well, what are we, like the sub brain?
Yes. I mean, what Elon Musk said, the digital god. We're going to have a digital god.
Although, what
That's a false
what
god.
did Peter Gabriel say the other day to the Times that in the future, the beauty's going to be in the imperfection of things. We're going to look for things that aren't exactly right.
I'm gorgeous. You know, listening to Altman, you did get the sense that he's an OpenAI.
Yeah.
That it's not going to be like years from now.
Right.
Like, you know, like maybe like 9 months from now.
Things are, they just, it keeps, you know, things keep getting faster. I'm trying to think of the term and it's escaping me. That's why I
Skynet.
paused.
You think Skynet?
But the rate of change is only accelerating.
Right.
In
Now,
terms of what this can accomplish and what generative AI is going to be able to. GPT-7 is going to be so much more powerful than 4. It's not going to be one time.
I mean, Jensen Huang,
AMD only
the
one
CEO
red on the
of
day.
NVIDIA,
Like, come on,
would tell
bruh.
you, look, you could take the 100 smartest people at your company and they wouldn't be equal to one.
So is this the end of days here? Is this the end of our non-digital god life? What?
I mean, on the beach? What are you talking
I
about?
don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Well, let's just say that.
What did
Let's
he
say.
say during this thing? Did he say anything interesting, Altman, during the interview yesterday with the Time thing?
Well, I thought it was interesting that we're useless. That we are gonna that there are machines that would do much better than we're doing. They may not be as entertaining, or they may be
Top
entertaining.
wick, top wick.
I mean, I think that when you list, sometimes there's entertaining when they go back and forth. I thought that Gemini was entertaining when it says, like, you know, what is that? Now, by the way, NVIDIA up because Secretary Raimondo made it very clear, unlike a previous press story,
Massive
that they are not
divergence
going after
because
Okay.
Dow
There
was
were
red
stories
on the
in interview
day.
with her last night on Mad Money.
Yeah, because there was concern that NVIDIA is giving China more than it should, and
And what did she say?
she said, no, I go over and talk to them all the time, make sure that they didn't do anything that was so-called cutting
They're
edge.
complying.
They're complying to the point where they check it. There are some companies that I think are not complying. We're not really clear. But I know that NVIDIA is complying. I think that's one of the reasons it's going up, because the silver bullet against NVIDIA was that perhaps they're not playing the game, and they are.
Meantime, Google and Affirm partnering up on Buy Now, Pay Later for Google Pay. Even as the Journal has this piece about how the App Store economy, Jim, is under threat. B of A today saying Apple might have some headline risk after this San Francisco jury decision.
Well, I think that we saw the outfit top pick today from Affirm itself is up 314%. Max Lipton, they did not get the defaults that people thought because they use artificial intelligence, which is clearly in this case a better lender.
I guess so. Yes, sir.
I'm bummed out, David.
What are you bummed out about, Jim?
I mean, if we're just not as good as the machines, then how do we justify our existence?
It's a great question. It's a great
People said the same thing about email. We can't deliver a letter as quickly as it can deliver an electronic piece of.
This is a little more existential than email.
It's just when Sam Walton's there and he's just talking about the super brain. I mean, yes, the super brain, you can talk to it. Maybe it's going to be in your PC. You know, tell me what.
Nice here, good
Give me
short.
what you think David Faber years.
All right. Let's see where we looking.
He always defaults to the.
Why wouldn't I? This will be the milk. Come on. It was big. It was a big movie.
Here's your observation. Unbelievable art collection. Major art collector. Major. Yeah, sophisticated.
Until
Mostly
I am
expression.
replaced by my digital app, whatever you want to call it, avatar, I'm going to do a favor report. They're not going to, they're going to have to pull me out of here. Look at that face.
Wow.
I want to keep seeing that.
That looks better than any machine I've ever seen. You look better than HP.
Don't know what's going on. Update on the sales process of U.S. Steel. That's what we got for you this morning. Board's going to meet today. U.S. Steel's board is going to meet today, and they are going to go over what I am told by people familiar with the process is a number of bids that are in excess of $40 a share. Now, I'll give you a little more granularity to the extent I have it, but some of it is fact and some of it is in the more the realm of I'm not completely certain. So let's call it speculation. What I am certain of is board's meeting today. Multiple bids are in excess of $40 a share. Doesn't mean we're going to get an announcement tomorrow, by the way, from what I'm hearing, because there still could be some back and forth here, as they make their decision ostensibly about what represents the best bid for the company. As you see the stock moving up a little bit on that. We know there are any number of bidding groups. I've been through them prior. Let me give you a little bit of insight. Bid kind of put this company into play in a sense when they back in August. It was $35. It was $17.50.
Yeah, that was
cash,
just
rest of the stock.
sliding.
Composition of said bid, I believe, is similar, though it may be weighted a bit more towards more cash. Again, I'm not certain on price. Into the 40s certainly has to be thought of as a strong possibility. And then also including things that are going to mitigate the risk of antitrust review for U.S. Steel shareholder base. Does that include a reverse termination fee? Most likely it does. Is there going to be some sort of potential divestiture package? I can't say with any certainty, but again, one would have to expect that might be a part of the
Video
request bid. In other
ridiculous,
words,
bro.
desiring to try to basically do whatever it can to take out the antitrust risk for U.S. Steel shareholders and therefore appeal to the board in a positive fashion on that front. As for ArcelorMittal, don't know again there. What I have heard is they had financing that would have allowed them to go up to as high as $45 a share in all cash. That's in the realm of speculation. I don't know it to be a fact, and it doesn't mean that they made said $45 a share all cash bid, but my understanding is they had the ability to potentially do so, but again, don't have that. I'm putting it out there because I think it may very well be the case, but it's not one of the things I would call facts.
It would be so
We're getting
great for
close.
Cliffs.
I'm going back here just trying to look at some of my notes. 40% of flat rolled steel, 60% of auto grade steel. If the two combined, Cleveland Cliffs and U.S. Steel, that would be in the U.S. But they would just make the top 10 worldwide U.S. steel producers. It'd be number 10 combined. And so they're going to argue this is not a domestic market. This is a global market. And when it comes to global, we would just be number 10 player, even if we got together for U.S. Steel. What is clear is this is a asset that has attracted a great deal of interest, as we've said throughout the process. The process is coming towards a conclusion, and it does appear that they have significant bids from multiple parties above $40 a share. Again, said composition of those bids.
Okay, still nothing yet.
All cash,
Come
certainly
on.
not necessarily all cash. Both cash and stock, and some of the others, frankly, not really sure.
Wow. I mean, they would own a lot of the auto market. Jeez, together.
Yeah.
And it's, boy, Cleveland Cliffs is such a great acquirer. When they do it, they really get rid of everything that doesn't work. And the stock is worth I don't know how much it will be Cliff stock, but those guys are fabulous at what they do. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that they're a tremendous operator. That'd be a great deal for them, dude. Great deal.
So we'll see.
Look, I think FTC.
Not sure we're going to get the news tomorrow, but it's got to be coming soon.
Well, FTC might say, listen, they have too much hot rolled steel together for the auto. I mean,
Right.
Nucor's in there with high end,
Yes.
and then
Closing
Cliff
out
is
the
number one
AMD
steel producer or Ford
calls.
If you put them together with U.S. Steel, they will own a huge amount of the auto market. So I can see some regulator not liking it, but I can see some shareholder love it.
But do you see it as a global market, or is it fairly set a domestic market? I mean, there are certain
Well, we have
restrictions. And,
tariffs.
yeah.
We have tariffs, makes it so that it's you can't really import cheaper. Look, I think I like Cleveland this very much. They've done a remarkable job integrating a lot of stuff.
And they'd already reached some sort of agreement with the union, right, of U.S. Steel ahead of time.
They're good to go. Nucor doesn't want it. Nucor runs a different kind of mill. But I think this is really worth watching, David, because it would be a colossus, even though we say top 10. But the other ones, we don't subsidize our steel like so many other countries, right? Like the Chinese steel. What don't they subsidize? Richemont watch are involved in a lot. Hermes.
Meantime, Dow getting dragged by J&J. VIX almost with an 11 handle. Keep an eye on that. Quick reminder, you can get on the CNBC Investing Club with Jim. Just sign up and find out more at cnbc.com/join the club, or just point your phone to the QR code.
AMD's
It takes you
disappointing.
straight there. As we go to break, we'll watch bonds closely today. 10-year was around 418 ahead of the decision in the presser this afternoon. We'll see if that holds. Of course, the disinflationary effects from PPI and energy, and even rent today. Redfin, November rent's biggest drop in 3 years. We'll keep an eye on that in a minute.
Come on, crack it, crack it. Okay. Still sliding. Still sliding. Nice, nice. Another upside target hit. So if we don't catch much action from now until FMOC, I definitely will be on for FMOC.
Welcome back. I'm Sarah Eisen, and good morning. I'm here at the Treasury Department today in Washington, D.C., where in just a few moments I will be bringing you an exclusive interview with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Secretary Yellen's already made some news this week saying She thinks that last mile push down to 2% inflation should be smooth. Move the markets. We'll dig into that call as well as her outlook for 2024 in the next hour of Squawk on the Street. We'll be right back.
Let's see, let's see. Oh, I didn't even realize. Come on. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm. Okay. AMD bouncing now. Mm. Damn, Tesla dumping. Haters. Come on, come on. Just waiting, just waiting, just waiting. We ready. Mm-mm-mm. Psst, there goes Tesla. Tesla, new low on the day.
Now.com.
Let's get to Jim and stop trading.
There was a news this morning that
Are you sure,
which is a
Queen, on Tesla?
price target boost for Union Pacific by city. Now they've talked about how they like all the rails. They kind of just think, look, this is the group to play for a turn. And you know, one of the things I like is that Jim Venner is the new CEO. He came in and bought $1 million worth of stock. Yeah, I have been looking at companies where there's a lot of insider buying. There was a tremendous insider buy, for instance, of Broadcom, when it had a so-called shortfall in August. No shortfall here at Union Pacific, but this, to me, you got insider buying, you got a very good situation where rails
Shorting NQ at 16,613.
Interesting. Yeah, the ratio of buying to selling hasn't been so high lately.
No, that's true, but I think Van is doing a terrific job, and I think the people felt that the company was very undermanaged previously. I happen to have liked previous management as people, but I think that
There we
there are some
go.
good things happening.
What's up tonight?
Okay, I have Prologis, which people may not know is it's the #1 warehouse, #1 logistics company for it, and also the biggest builder of data centers. I want to find out what's going on with
Come on, get under 16.
Remember, Oracle's trying to build 100 data
Get
centers.
under
How much does it
600.
cost to build a
There we
data center?
go.
But this man controls.
Dropping one contract.
This is where Amazon.
They get brought in to build the data center.
Yeah, they do
Or
everything. They do
own the real
whatever you
estate,
want.
which is
Let's
Whatever you want,
go.
they'll sell it to you. But this is
Let's
this is
go.
Amazon
What do we
uses,
want?
to move things around. FedEx. You need them. You know, you need
Let's go.
warehouse, you need
Yes.
storage, you need processing, logistics.
Especially if you
Everything
get
in.
you order something, it shows up at your door almost the moment
Well,
you
that's look. Remember, one day, of course, because of AI, they will know well ahead that you need Tide. Maybe you're out of Tide. The machine told me.
Come on.
That will happen.
Having it
Come
planted
on.
in your head one day.
That will happen.
It's going to be
Man,
Neuralink.
the
and something
video
like
I
just
have to tell you about like when
wow.
Jassy, when he knows I like Jack Reacher, so they
Yes.
like, push the book.
Yes.
And then the movie comes, they push the movie. I like that they did this. They did this because I had a pattern of buying Jack Reacher because it's Jack Reacher book. The new one out. Boom, I get it. It's incredible. David, it's so much smarter than you. I don't know what to say.
I don't take offense.
It's not great looking like you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, there you go.
Well, they're welcome back.
That's a nice way to end.
Jim, we'll see at 6. Mad Money, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. When we come back, Sarah sits down with Secretary
Wow.
Yellen with a
The
pretty
video.
tight range.
Goodness.
Dow's up
Check
4.
this out, guys, man. The video's just chugging. 480 gone. Let me see what these contracts are looking like on the video. Anybody trading futures and trading on TOS, just be aware that there's a glitch I found fixing right now. If you have the option, adjust for whether this changes on. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Ugh. Come on. AMD's hurting my feelings. Mm, mm, mm. Mm, mm.
Another hour of Squawk of the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with David Faber, live at Post 9 at the New York Stock Exchange, alongside Sarah Eisen, who's live at Treasury today ahead of a very big exclusive coming up. Morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Carl, from the Treasury Department. Yes, we've got an exclusive interview with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. You know, now's the time where end of the year we start to get the outlooks from investors and strategists and economists. I am looking forward to getting her outlook for the economy in the year ahead. Policy priorities, of course, in an election year, geopolitics, relationships with key trading partners like China. We've got a lot to talk about. We'll be bringing you that interview in just a few minutes, Carl.
Meantime, Sarah, holding the cards close to the vest ahead of the Fed today. You can see the Dow's down about 4 points. S&P roughly flat. Treasuries as well. We'll watch 3 big stories we're watching. 30 minutes in, Pfizer getting hammered after slashing its full-year guidance in the wake of its acquisition of Seagen. Shares have been cut in half.
All right.
Vertex Pharma, a top gainer. Its non-opioid painkiller successfully reduced nerve pain in a mid-stage trial. And Tesla recalling almost every vehicle it's ever sold in the U.S. More than 2 million cars.
AMD, why you doing me like this?
found deficiencies in its autopilot system. Although the term recall, David, is contested.
Coming right back up.
Yeah, I guess it's used as a term of art, but it doesn't actually mean you're taking your car to a dealership of any kind, Carl, right? It's just a
Meta with the
over-the-air
pullback.
software upgrade that they will deal with this problem with.
Meantime, Sarah, a lot of disinflationary signposts to look at this morning.
Yeah. No, the PPI read on wholesale inflation following the trend we've seen lately for PPI, pretty benign, just more evidence that inflation is cooling. That's going to be good news for the Fed. Of course, today is Fed Day, and we will get that decision, that statement, that press conference, and as a bonus, we're going to get the SEP, the Summary of Economic Projections, which could be the most market-moving part. But there's the PPI look year over year. It's pretty much, it's less than 1% higher. It's flat on the month. And core PPI, which strips out volatile food and energy prices at the wholesale level, also very benign. Again, good for the Fed. So what are we watching today? The signals that the Fed is still in this tightening bias mode.
So if ES pops back up to potentially 47.05 or 47.04, I'll take a short.
Carl and David, and that's where we saw the tightening bias first appear in that statement. Here's the money quote, and we'll see if they leave this kind of language in today at 2 p.m. when it is released. Last time, the Federal Reserve said, in determining the extent of additional policy firming, there's the tightening bias that may be appropriate to return inflation to 2%. Members concurred that they would take into account the cumulative tightening of monetary policy, the lags with which monetary policy affects economic activity and inflation, and economic and financial development.
All I can do right now is just wait patiently.
In determining the extent of additional policy firming, because what the market thinks here and what the Fed may communicate is no more hikes, but also no cuts either. And so that's going to be a sort of delicate dance for them to walk the line on that without getting the market too excited about it.
Yeah, a lot of framing this morning. Deutsche is a good example in which this meeting could be the first, they argue, in which
NVIDIA upside target smash. I'm sick.
Financial conditions, Sarah, have gotten the market's no longer doing Powell's work for him, as had been the case in recent months. That's going to be interesting to see how it affects the tone of the presser.
Absolutely, it's been such a major change since the November meeting. What's happened is you've seen the S&P 500 rally since November. You've seen bonds in a pretty big rally since November come off those 10-year yield highs of over 5%. You've seen the dollar weaken since November meeting. So all of that adds up to financial conditions loosening pretty substantially. And the threat there for the Fed and for Chair Powell is that that could undo some of the work that they've done, the tightening of the markets that will impact inflation and push it lower. In fact, Mohamed El-Arian from Allianz this morning on X put out a tweet saying the longer the Fed hesitates to push back against such loosening, the bigger the risks it will end up underwriting in terms of both inflation and growth configuration and financial stability. In other words, he thinks that Powell needs to talk a little bit tougher and push back against what we've seen in the market so they don't lose control of the disinflation that we've been seeing. David, I think that's one of the key questions into today's news conference is how hard will he push back? Will he feel the need to push back hard? Will that show up in the dots? Because right now the market is 4 cuts next year. Now, the consensus is that, like September, the federal government has 2 cuts. Will they do more?
This is
because
frustrating.
their inflation forecasts come down and their growth targets go up? Or will they keep that to tell the market and signal we're not thinking about cutting anytime soon?
All right, Sarah, well, we can't wait for, obviously, the decision, the presser, and your interview with Yellen coming up later on this hour. Let's get some more predictions on the Fed's next move. Joining us this morning, former Federal Reserve Vice Chair Alan Blinder, now a professor at Princeton University. Professor, great to have you back. Good morning.
Always. Yeah, I know. I hate the Fed days like that, man.
Listening to our discussion,
Stuff.
how do you think they tackle some of the dynamics that are facing them today?
I think Sarah put her finger on the right thing. Every once in a while, and now seems to be another one of those once in a whiles, the markets get way ahead of the Fed, and in this case, in the easing direction. That's happened before some months ago, and it took some effort from Chair Powell and others to talk the market out of that, and they did talk them out of that. I think there's a bit of that.
Okay,
Now,
nice
it's not
little
quite as
pop.
extreme because we are, unlike months ago, I think at the end of the tightening cycle. Now, I think Chair Powell thinks that also, though I'm not inside his head and I can't be sure. But they are going to be a little bit worried, not, not catatonic about it. The market getting too hepped up about rate hikes soon. Not rate hikes in general. There will be, rate cuts. There will be cuts, but not right away.
I think Goldman's, the title of their report this week coming out of CPI was Sooner But Not Soon, meaning they pushed forward their expectation for the first cut to Q3. They were in Q4. Does that kind of rhyme with your view right now?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know, Q3, Q4, second half of the year. I'd be surprised. Let me backtrack. To get cuts in the first half of the year, the economy would have to start looking sour. Maybe that'll happen. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think the Fed thinks it'll happen, but it's a possibility. But short of that, I doubt that we're going to see rate cuts the first half of the year.
Why don't you think the economy will go sour in the first half of the year?
Well, there are no signs of it yet. Now, occasionally you get a surprise, but usually there's some signs of weakening hiring, for example. Now, you could say hiring is weakening, but what's happening is it's coming down from a blistering pace. Those kinds of job numbers we were getting a few months ago were wildly high for an economy in something approaching equilibrium. They were more like an economy coming out of a recession.
Is there any tickers anyone would particularly like to take a look at? Because, man,
But something could happen.
I am not seeing nothing that I particularly like.
Just for example, a non-random example, the price of oil has been behaving pretty nicely lately. That could reverse. I'm not forecasting that it would. Nobody can forecast what's going to go on in the short term with oil, but that's just one example of something that could go wrong and hopefully won't go wrong.
Do you think dissents are going to start to be something to watch the way they have been recently in Europe?
Not yet. I think right now the Fed deal. If I could get inside the head of every FOMC member, which I'm not, my guess is they're all thinking the same, that they're all agreed. That was not true a few months ago. And it probably won't be true a few months down the road where the prospects of cutting rates become realistic in a way that they're not at today's meeting. My guess is they're all on the same page today, and maybe for the next meeting or two, who knows about that? That depends on incoming data.
One final question, just on the politics of rates. It does make you think back to the time where we were moving 50 and even more basis points a meeting because Powell arguably saw the political pressure that would inevitably come. I wonder how smart you think that looks in retrospect.
I wouldn't have called it political pressure. Powell takes very seriously his oath of office. And the parts of his oath of office, everyone takes the same oath of office, but has different responsibilities. And the main responsibility, or not the only, but the main one, is to keep inflation down. And inflation had soared. And he realized, and the whole committee realized, they were, as the market says, behind the curve, and they had some catch up to do. That's miles different from the position that they're in today, but I don't think that was at all generated by political considerations. And if you're on the FOMC, you try to close your political eyes and pretend you don't even know there's an election a year from now. Now, of course, they know that, but they try not to let it influence their thinking.
Alan, great guidance and insight ahead of the meeting and the presser. We'll talk soon. Alan Blunt.
Thank you.
As we go to break, let's get a roadmap for the rest of the hour. As we said, Pfizer plunging on this weak guidance. The company's holding a conference call. We'll get details of that next.
Plus, we'll give you a 2024 playbook, talk about 3 sectors that may put you on, that you should put on your radar perhaps for next year.
Counting you down to our exclusive interview with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen live from the Treasury Department in Washington this morning. That's at 10:30 Eastern. Big show still ahead. Stay with us on Squawk on the Street.
Mm, mm, mm. Mm, mm, mm. Mhm. Mm. Okay, ZL. ZL with continuous drop. Why y'all doing this? Fed days be so boring.
Basically.
Yes,
So it's not a perfectly even.
right. I like
you
it
know.
usually around 1-to-1. This is 0.67.
The option's not volatile enough. It's not
Exactly. There's just not enough premium built in as much as I would like. A lot of
Okay.
people will look at this and say,
But too much to want to outright own premium.
correct. I definitely don't want to own it. Definitely don't want to own it. But a lot of people look at this and say make 4, risk 6. And they'll look at that and say, oh, I like those odds.
Sure.
To me, it's not usually quite enough, but I'm going to do it on this trade.
It's still pretty good. I
Yeah.
mean, and the idea too is that it hasn't been a giant earnings mover. You had one pretty big pop that if you put this trade on in the June report would have been stressed a little bit, but this trade certainly would have worked last time.
Tomorrow we should. I mean, we should have a lot of volume tomorrow, and then on Friday. Friday is quad witching day, so we should be seeing a lot of movement. So actually, Friday I'm probably gonna trade London session and all of the U.S. session, just to try to catch those moves, because we're gonna have a lot of back and forth.
For this trade, only because when you see a stock butt up against either,
But let's see what FMOC. I mean, if FMOC can just bring the market back down, at least maybe down to the bottom side of this gap up from the contract rollover, that'll be solid.
Could happen on good guidance here. We'll see what happens. I like the odds. I like the credit.
You're more worried that if the trade went wrong, it would be because it rallied too much.
Because it went to the upside. I like the support down on the bottom.
I do feel like that's the stronger end of the condor, right?
There's no question. There's no question about it. And we'll see what happens. We know the premium is going to collapse tomorrow, regardless of the move. It's just really how big is that move?
Yeah. For Adobe, which is, because again, there haven't been a lot of software companies this close to the highs.
Nope.
They're really, really strong. If they were to break that moving average, they would probably have to drop the ball pretty hard on this.
I would agree with that. And a lot of people will look to what happened with Broadcom, with AVGO.
That's true, though.
And say,
that was a big pop.
We had the little bit of a sell-off right after the earnings news, and then look at that.
Got wrecked too. So you're actually, now that I think about it, it's, you're kind of wandering into camp here, but there's been some pretty big moves.
Yeah. So
for a couple of these companies.
But I'm playing the expected move, right? The market's pricing at about a $40 move either way.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at here, and we'll play the odds.
Right. I like the trade. The final thought: AI driving the market, Fed cuts driving the market. What percent do you assign to each? Is it like 70 cuts, 30 AI, 50, 50?
80-20 Fed. 80-20 Fed. The AI is going to be the AI, whether, the Fed cuts in March or May or June, whatever it is. I think AI is going to play out, the way it's going to play out. It concerns me a little bit that the market maybe is a little bit ahead of what the Fed may be doing. I think Powell is sitting in the catbird seat on this one. And
They've got a lot of optionality.
he's got a lot of optionality. Given the recent data here, he can really just sit back and say, we're getting there. But the new mantra, I think the new mantra from we had transitory and then we had higher for longer.
Yep.
And I think the new one's going to be, we're just not there yet.
Okay, nice. Like that. All right, thanks. A little hot macro take in there. 80-20. I guess there should be another slice for growth, but
There we go.
AI and FOMC is what we like to talk about. Thanks, Scott Bauer, for the trade. All right, looking for Adobe to stay within a pretty wide range around earnings, particularly hold that 50-day support line. Scott Bauer, CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, coming up. Let's talk some ETFs. Excited to catch up with Cynthia Murphy from the ETF think tank as we continue our non-Fed conversations in which the Fed always works its way in somehow.
So might not take that short.
Download the Schwab Network app and join in on the latest market trends. Anytime, anywhere, on any device for free. Schwab Network.
Might wait. Think I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna short the 47.05. I'm gonna wait.
For the biggest earnings coverage, 3 p.m. Eastern, it's market on close. No place better than the Schwab Network.
All the need-to-know info from every trading day. I'm Renita Young. Earnings, data, the biggest headlines that move the market, all condensed into a few minutes. Download the Schwab Network app and join in on the latest market trends, available anytime, anywhere, on any device, for free. Recap your trading day with the wrap, right here on schwabnetwork.com.
Kickstart your morning with a technical analysis, economic data, and live reaction in global markets. Available anytime, anywhere, on any device for free. And available on all your favorite streaming services. Futures with Ben Lichtenstein every weekday, 8 a.m. Eastern on the Schwab Network. Welcome back to Morning Trade Live as we prepare to close out 2023 and look ahead. We're focusing on ETFs, among many other things. Cynthia Murphy joins us. Take a look at the fund outlook for the year. Director of Research at the ETF think tank. Cynthia, good to see you again.
Hey, Oliver, it's been a while. How are you?
Absolutely. Too long. I'm doing good, and we've got a pretty fun day ahead of us. We're we're kind of hyper-Fed focused here, but we want to talk a little bit about, the offshoot stuff. What are you most excited about in your market for ETFs next year?
Yeah, it's funny because in our space, too, it's all about the Fed. I guess we're all, Fed obsessed these days. I think in ETF space, December tends to be a really exciting month because, one, there's just the overall going for us, the market seasonality, right? Equities tend to do really well in December. I think I just read recently 70% of the time large cap stocks are up in December, regardless of whether in a bear or bull market. We've seen a strong demand for our ETFs. We tend to see that kind of end of year positioning, which tends to benefit ETFs. We just came off of a monster month for flows into ETFs in November. More than $100 billion have gone into ETFs in November. So it's all looking really good for ETFs as an industry, for the ETFs as a vehicle to position ahead for all the uncertainty we have coming up in 2024. And it's been kind of interesting to see how people are positioning themselves. And that's a little bit all over the place.
So are they, I mean, obviously the tech heavy AI stuff still is getting flows. And then I guess on the bond side too, where is the money flowing? Is it all long-term, the standard TLTs and AGs of the world, or are people going for some of these more Fed-specific, short-end, speculative kind of funds?
So it's been interesting in the sense that, your large cap growth, your big quality large cap names are still the go-to favorite for everybody who's positioning for equities next year.
Okay.
So you tend to see your classic winners in that space, your IVVs, VOOs, that kind of classic stuff. But what's kind of cool is that there's a growing conversation about the downside protection, and people are expressing that in different ways. So a lot of it has gone into the equity income type of investment, or the buffered a little bit type of investment, or lots of options-based kind of plays, your JEPIs of the world, things like your yield max. I mean, that's a new type of strategy, and that family of ETFs has over $1 billion in assets already. So there's been adoption of different ways to protect that portfolio, because nobody really knows. Like, if you look at all the big outlooks for 2024, it's kind of that middle of the road. So it's go stay equity to capture any kind of rally if the Fed softens rates, but we could also be in trouble next year. So make sure you have that downside protection. So we've seen a little bit of that playing both sides of the story. I think the most interesting contrarian play that I've been fascinated by all year is the TLT play on the bond side. I mean, investors bought that fund all the way down. I mean, TLT has taken more than $20 billion this year, and it's had terrible performance. And it was just kind of positioning for that pop that came in November. So best month for bonds in November in something like 15 years. And so that was a really interesting contrarian bet. But for what we're hearing for next year, people are saying stay more towards the middle of the curve. Avoid the long end. The short end should start unraveling a little bit. So that 3 to 7, 3 to 10 year range is where we're seeing people starting to put money towards.
All right. So the growth tech trade linked towards the bond trade through flows the same way we've seen through kind of like market correlations. I mean, things line up pretty well. At least the market's logic is consistent, it sounds like. So you can, dispute it. There's people that are going to argue that it's unsustainable, but it does look like a puzzle whose pieces fit together in a fairly logical way if things hold up. What about on the outskirts? If we move away from the bond stock interlink, gold, the Bitcoin world, I mean, what's the, not black swan, but what's like the, what do we call that group? The offshoots, the speculative trades, the other stuff.
Yeah, the other stuff. And so to your point earlier, November, TLT and QQQ took the same amount of money in. So that really tells the story in a nutshell. Yeah, I mean, if you look at in the Bitcoin, I mean, we're all waiting for that January 10th deadline. That's when the SEC has to speak next on those filings. Just about everybody's expecting that, that second half of January is going to welcome all of the spot Bitcoin ETFs at once. There are outlooks out there. I think VanEck set out this week, $2.5 billion should go into those ETFs in the first quarter. It should be a big rush into it. I mean, come January 10th, if nothing happens, I think is going to be the biggest letdown of the year, because we're so obsessed when is spot Bitcoin going to come. But even for now, all you can own in ETFs is the futures type of strategies. And those have been picking up assets, like BITO from ProShares has been gaining assets consistently. So it's a space that there's traction. And I think it's interesting, like a fund like Block, BLOK, which is a blockchain fund, has been kind of out of favor all year. He has picked up more than $100 million just in the last couple weeks. So all of a sudden, there's assets coming back into the blockchain story. There's assets positioning for any kind of Bitcoin futures to spot conversion. There's assets ready for the Bitcoin spot ETF. So there's definitely the digital gold story is everybody's all in, right, waiting to see what happens. But I really hope January 10th doesn't bring a disappointment, because it's going to be interesting to see what happens if the SEC somehow says no again.
Yeah. It kind of seems like it's inevitable, but that's like, my total armchair, just like kind of sensing the way regulators have talked about it. And then obviously the last ruling that was well received from the Grayscale team, etc. So, all right, that's a big one. What else could be sort of like the wild card? Maybe that's the way to think about it. I know that this past year we saw a lot of those buffered ETFs. You mentioned that. Is there anything that you see brewing as kind of like a, what's in vogue style product?
I'm really curious to see whether we're going to go back to the all about dividends story we had about a year ago. You probably remember.
Seems that Nvidia has topped out.
But there's such an strong undertone for focus on quality in 2024 as one way to hedge for risk. And, one of the ways you do that is, focusing on the companies with really strong free cash flow, which tends to be your high dividend payers, your consistent dividend payers, your cash cows, your shareholder yield type funds like SYLD. So we're starting to see like a fund like Qual, just classic quality, is picking up a lot of assets here. And I'm curious to see whether we're going to park a lot of cash like we did that a couple years ago as the, top quality play, portfolio protection type of play. And the risks to that is these companies can start to get kind of overpriced, where everybody's worried about valuations at this point. But again, then it all goes back to the Fed. It's in a higher for longer scenario, then all bets are off. If we get confirmation of the rate cuts we're expecting for, probably second half of next year, then, the equity game is back on, and everybody start running towards U.S. stocks again.
All right. So right now, it sounds like we kind of get through this macro, expectation, get it fulfilled, reward all the bond and the growth fund buyers for their flows, and then maybe we do hit some interest rate nirvana next year, get a Bitcoin spot ETF. That seems like that would be a bad environment for all those buffered funds, though, Cynthia. If markets start, ripping from here, wouldn't that kind of, put the kibosh, a little souring of the buffered strategy?
Absolutely. Nobody wants to give up upside. But I think unless there is a consistent kind of rally, the fear of losing money at this point, if we hear more about recession,
Beneficiary ownership report.
It's people prefer, it's what they say in behavioral finance, right? Our aversion to loss is way stronger than our excitement over gains. True. So we should see people really looking for that portfolio protection. But I don't think that's going to stick if the market shows that, there's a rally ahead. Then all we want is big tech and we're done, right?
Yeah. All right. So that's when we'll know that sentiment is really turning. If the money that started dabbling in the buffered asset class, backs off a little bit. Always love the perspective. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Great stuff.
Great to see you.
Thank you. Cynthia Murphy, Director of Research at the ETF Think Tank. All right, the mid/early January timeline for the Bitcoin spot ETF. The drive of risk aversion for the buffered fund trend this year. And, of course, a lot of money flowing into bonds and stocks. Coming up, the Chart Master has a little video game chat for us. We're going to check in on take 2 after not the best reception to Grand Theft Auto stock-wise. We're going to talk Uber, which has had an amazing year, and then Microsoft as well. Be right back.
Knock, knock. Number one broker here for the number one hitmaker.
Thanks for swinging by, Carl.
No problem. So what are all those for?
This lets me adjust the bass, add more guitar, maybe some drums.
Wow, so many choices.
Yeah, like Schwab. I can get full service wealth management, advice, invest on my own, and trade on Thinkorswim.
You know Carl is the only front man you need.
Oh, I gotta take this, Carl. Schwab.
Have a choice in how you invest with Schwab.
Every morning, every trade, always live. Expert earnings analysis, in-depth technical insights on every changing trend in markets. Available anytime, anywhere, on any device for free. Welcome to Morning Trade Live on the Schwab Network. I'm Oliver Ring.
It's raggedy action.
Get each and every angle, the whole picture, everything comes full circle on Trading 360. Catch us right here at the New York Stock Exchange on Trading 360, only on Schwab Network.
Download the Schwab Network app and join in on the latest market trends. Available anytime, anywhere, on any device for free. Schwab Network.
Accelerate your market knowledge.
Oh, Faye, what a day, man. This is just horrendous.
I'm Tom White.
I'm Kevin Hicks. Catch me on Fast Market, weekdays at noon on the Schwab Network.
Fast market, ready for you, ready to go.
Nice rejection at the 47.05. Getting closer to London close.
Let's get technical. Rick Duca and Jenny Horn with a few fun charts for us. Let's start with take two as the release of the Grand Theft Auto trailer. Didn't really do a ton for the stock, didn't really hurt it, but didn't really rally either.
Probably because it's not releasing until 2025. So it's like, I mean, that's a lifetime away at this point. I can't even talk about 2024 yet, let alone 2025. So I do think the GTA 6 installment will be huge. It's their most lucrative franchise, really, but that's not coming at least anytime soon.
Right.
So what we are seeing, though, is NASDAQ did announce an update to its annual reconstitution. Now, per the announcement and pending the acquisition between Pfizer and Seagen, which is expected to close on December 14th, Take Two is then replacing Seagen overall as part of the annual reconstitution.
I guess that 47.05 was definitely it.
So this is why it's finally breaking out, is the NASDAQ thing.
Right, which I actually will say I'm surprised.
But I'm still gonna wait,
that
man.
such a nice move to this.
You should
because the
have
NASDAQ 100
stayed.
doesn't have the same notoriety as like the S&P, for example.
Hey, you
But
got those triple Qs and
Right, it's all good. I mean, need to get back on the charts and everything, and we Gucci. We just gonna patiently wait. You know, come 2 o'clock when the Fed comes out, you know what I mean, we're gonna get a nice drop, hopefully. If we're gonna rip, then you're gonna catch these longs.
Gonna join some of the big names up there. Easy for us to keep track of over the next year then, as we await the big release. Yeah, it's true, 2025. I forgot the next year is 2024. Guess I missed that. Jeez. All right, Rick, what are we gonna play until then?
Time makes fools of us all, Oliver. But, Take Two also makes my favorite series, Civilization series, doesn't get a lot of love.
They make Civilization?
Yeah, 2K makes, one of their subsidiaries does. So just a fun fact about your pal Rick. Looking here at the chart here, kind of a range-bound price action for the past, summer months here. Then we had a break above our old highs near 153, this green dashed line here. That was significant because then that resistance point became supportive here. We had a couple touches of our yellow 21-day exponential moving average, then a nice gap up for today's on today's news that brought us quite close to this one spike that we had a couple of weeks ago near 160, 160. So we did clear that today. We're just kind of nosing our way above that point right now. Quite a bullish situation here to be included in one of these major indices. So, that it'll be interesting to see how the move progresses from this point because now we're at new yearly highs. RSI mostly was following price action for a bit, moving into that overbought area. We did retreat a little bit from that point, had a sharp decline, but we did stay above that 50 midline that separates bullish and bearish momentum. Now we're cruising back upward here, almost erased all that brief
For now, it
here.
seems,
Look
yeah.
for a push above that 70 level for signs of further bullishness here. Now for potential resistance, plus 1 standard deviation channel comes in near 174 currently. That's a bit of a stretch up, but that's what we could use to
Seems
potentially
so.
project resistance. Linear regression line of best fit, 1 standard deviation from that point. To the downside, our linear regression line is supportive. That would be near 157. Then we've got our 21-day EMA and our old highs that I mentioned earlier, our green line, coming in between like 153, 154.
Is this, I think this right there is the GTA candle, the fade?
I think you might be right, yeah.
Yeah. So we're back then to where we were at that overnight rally. If I'm right, I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. Which because it's about a week ago.
Option
we're back to that.
close till 2 p.m. Yeah, smart, best thing to do. Right now things are just choppy as hell. I'm probably gonna be jumping off. I'm gonna be jumping off myself. Have some breakfast and maybe go for a walk. But I'll be back later on today at 2 p.m. For sure. I will be back ready to catch this because I want this smoke today.
In more than a year. Speaking of the NASDAQ, let's talk.
Later. Thank you. Catch y'all later, all right?
Pretty solid. Kind of had a few days last.
So 150. I'll jump back on at 1:50 p.m. to see what Powell is gonna say and do. So I'll see you guys at 1:50 p.m. this afternoon.